Welcome back to another project. In this project, we are going to create a dark mode toggle. As you can see from the final version of the project, we have a toggle button here, and when we switch it on, we go to dark mode. And if we switch it back, we return to light mode. Also, we see a very beautiful animation, a sliding mode. We are going to learn CSS keyframes to create such beautiful animations. Also, we're going to use JavaScript to change the background color when we're switching the toggle on and off. We're also going to save these modes inside the local storage of the browser. So in dark mode, when we refresh the page, we can still see that the browser is in dark mode. And if we switch it back to light mode and refresh the page, we still have light mode. So the user can always see the same mode when they come back to our website later. In the next section, we're going to start with the HTML part of our project. So see you in the next section. All right, let's start our project. First, we open Visual Studio Code. Then we close the Get Started tab. In the File menu, we click on Open Folder. I'd like to create the project on my desktop, but you can create it anywhere you like on your computer. So here we click on Desktop. Here we click on the New Folder button to create a new folder. Name it Dark Mode Toggle, which is the name of our project, and then press Enter. Then we click here to select that folder. Next, we close the Get Started tab again, and on the left side in the Explorer section, we right-click and choose New File to create an HTML file. We name the file index.html and press Enter. As you can see, now on the right side, we have our index.html file, and we can use an exclamation mark to generate an HTML5 boilerplate. So we type an exclamation mark and choose the first auto-suggestion, and we can use Alt-Z to turn on word wrap. That way we can see the code clearly. As you can see, now we have the doc type, which tells the browser which version of HTML the page is written in. In our case, because we are using HTML5, we just need to have HTML here. Then we have an HTML tag, which wraps the head and body tags. The lang attribute here sets the language of the page. Since we are using English, we just write EN here. Then we have the head tag, which has 3 meta tags as well as a title tag. The charset attribute defines the HTML character encoding. UTF-8 is recommended by HTML5 for all new web developers because it nearly covers all characters and symbols, and users visiting our website won't have any problem reading those characters or symbols. Then we have this meta tag, which tells the Internet Explorer browser to use the most recent rendering engine, which is Edge. Next, this meta tag, the viewport meta tag, tells the browser how to resize the page. The first part, this part, tells the browser to set the width of the page to the device's screen. So when someone views our website on a mobile device, the width of the page will match the width of the mobile screen, and it will adjust accordingly when someone is using a computer screen. Then we have the initial zoom level of the page, which in our case is 100%. After that, we have the title tag, which sets the title of the page. To see the page in a browser inside Visual Studio Code, we can use the Live Preview extension. So we right-click here and choose Live Preview Show Preview. Now we have the browser on the right side, and the page title is Document. We can close the Explorer section so we have more space for coding and for viewing the browser preview. Now let's change the title to be the same as the name of our folder, which is Dark Mode Toggle. You can see this new title here as well inside the browser's title bar. Then in the body section, we add an input with a type of checkbox. You don't need to set any name for it. The ID will be dark mode. We also give it a class of input. This way we can style it in the CSS using this class. After this, we add a label for this input, and because the ID is dark mode, it should be used for dark mode. Then this label has a class of label as well. And inside this label, we have a div with a class of circle. Actually, this circle is an empty circle. So we're going to style it later using CSS. So when we click on the button, we'll see the circle move to the right, and when we click again, it will move back to the left. That's it for the HTML part. In the next section, we're going to start styling our toggle button using CSS. So see you in the next section. All right, in the last section, we finished the HTML part of our project. We added an input with a class of checkbox, as you can see in the browser. We also added a label, and inside the label, we added a div with a class of circle. In this section, we're going to start using CSS for styling our project. First, we need to create a CSS file. So here we open the Explorer section using Ctrl-Shift-E, or you can go to View and click on Explorer. I just use the shortcut Ctrl-Shift-E. So on the left side in the Explorer section, we right-click and click on New File to create a CSS file. We name the file style.css and press Enter. Before using CSS in our project, we need to add a link to the CSS file within the HTML code. So we go back to index.html, and just under the title tag, at the end of the head tag, we add a link tag by just typing link. Then we click on the third auto-suggestion, the one for CSS. Now we can use CSS in our project as we have a link tag that creates a relationship between the HTML code and the external style sheet, which is style.css. The href attribute defines the destination of the link, and because index.html and style.css are located in the same directory, we just need to write style.css without any path. So we save the file, and we go back to style.css to start styling our project. First, we'll style this label with the class of label so we can see it and start working with it. So we just write .label. Because it's a class, we need to add a dot here and then open a set of curly braces. We'll give it a width of 80 pixels and a height of 40 pixels. We can't really see it yet because the color is white, so let's change its background color to light gray, but it still doesn't show clearly yet. Everything looks fine now. Let's check this label, and this label is visible now too. Yeah, let's position this one as absolute. Since we put it inside the body to give it a width and height, we need to use absolute positioning. Now we can see the label here. So let's go ahead and change the border. Let's add a border to it to make it round. So we add a border radius. We'll just use half of this 40 pixels so we get completely rounded corners. So we set it to 20 pixels, as you can see. Now let's make this checkbox invisible by targeting this class of inputs. So here we target the input class and just set visibility to hidden. Yeah, we'll choose the second auto suggestion. Next, let's bring this to the middle by styling the body section. So we'll just write body. We'll remove the default margin on the body. For the default margin, we just set margin to 0. That connects everything to the top, and then we just change the display to flex. By changing the display to flex, we can center it horizontally using justify content center. We can also set the height to 100% of the viewport height and use align items center to bring it to the middle vertically. So now everything looks fine. Next, let's do this with a class called circle. Let's style it. We'll just write .circle. We'll give it a width of 34 pixels. Let's change the background color so we can see it. We'll just set it to red. And we'll give it a height of 34 pixels as well. We can see it here now. And let's make it rounded by using border radius 50% and set the top to 3 pixels, but we should also set the position to absolute. Now, the reason we chose the width and height to be 34 pixels is because we have 40 pixels for the height of the label. If we subtract 34 from 40, we have 6 pixels left, which gives us 3 pixels at the top and 3 pixels at the bottom. So this keeps the circle exactly in the middle. We also need to move it 3 pixels from the left. Now we have the circle exactly in the middle. Now we can change the color to white. So now you have a beautiful toggle. All right, next, we want to change its color when we click on it. First, we change the cursor to be a pointer. So when we hover over the label, we see the pointing hand cursor, and we say, if the input we have is checked, so when it's checked, we want to change the color of the label. So first we just say, if that happens, then change the label to have, for example, a salmon background color. So when we click on it, we see the label's color changing. The next thing is that I want this circle to move to the right side when we click on the label. So we need to add an animation to the circle when this happens. In order to add an animation, we just need to add a keyframe. So we just define a keyframe and give the animation a name. For example, to toggle it on or move it from the left side to the right side, we can just set it to 0%. And we change the transform translate X so that when it is at 0%, we just set it to 0. Then we copy this and change the second one so that when it's at 100%, it moves to the end. As you can see here, we have 80 pixels, but this one has 34 pixels. And we want this to be 3 pixels from this side as well. So we just set 40 pixels here, which is enough. So we turn on Alt-Z to see all the code, and we just set this one for the coming back as well for the off target off. So when we click back, it comes back, and this should be the opposite. This one should be 40 pixels, and this one should be 0. So now let's add the animation by adding the condition here. We just say input checked, and inside the label we have a circle. So we say .darkle.circle, and this circle should have the animation, which is the toggle on. When we toggle on, the animation duration is 0.4 seconds, and it should be linear and go forwards. Now when we click, we see that the circle is moving toward the right side. The reason we use forwards is that if you delete forwards, you'll see that when we click, it goes to the end and comes back to the original place. But when we use forwards, when we click, the circle goes to the end and stays there. However, we also want this animation to work when we click again from this position. When we click, we want this circle to go back. So we just add the animation to the circle for the toggle off state as well. This is the slide off animation. Sorry, the toggle off animation. Yeah, toggle off 0.4 seconds linear and also forwards. So now we have a cool animation. The next thing we're going to do is add JavaScript. So when we click on this mode, we'll see a dark mode applied to the body section. We also want to save this mode inside the local storage of the browser. So when someone comes to our website once and turns on dark mode, each time they come back to the website, they see it in dark mode. So see you in the next section. All right, in the last section, we finished styling our project using CSS. We also made a cool animation for our toggle bar. And in this section, we're going to add functionality to our project using JavaScript. We're going to change the background color of the body to dark mode when we toggle on and change it back to white or daytime mode when we toggle off. Also, we're going to save this mode in LocalStorage. That way, when a user visits our website multiple times, they'll always see the same dark mode setting on our site. So first, we need to create a JavaScript file. On the left side in the Explorer section, we right-click and click on New File to create a JavaScript file. We name the file index.js and open it in this window. As you may know, before using JavaScript, we need to add a link to the JavaScript file inside the HTML code. So we go back to the index.html file, and right at the end of the body tag, we add a script tag. So we write SC and click on the second auto-suggestion, the one with the src. As both files, I mean index.html and index.js, are located in the same directory, we just need to write index.js for the URL. Now we can use JavaScript in our project. The first thing we need to bring into our JavaScript file is this input. We want to know whether this input is checked or not. it has a class of input. To get an element by its class, we can use the query selector method. So here inside the JavaScript file, we create a constant and we just call it input element. And on document, we use a body selector method. And inside a set of parentheses, we just write that input. So we get the input. We can use Alt-Z to turn on word wrap so we can see the code clearly. If we console log the input element now, we just type input element, then open the console using this hamburger icon and open the DevTools pane. And inside the console, we get the input, which is a checkbox. If we want to check whether this input is in the checked mode or not, we can just add .checked. And as you can see, by default, it is false. If we refresh the page, we see that it's always false. All right, let's continue from where we left off. When the value is false, we want the body to be in light white mode. And when the value is true, we want it to be in dark mode. So to make that happen, we'll add a function here. We'll simply write a function, for example, called updateBody. And inside it, we'll say, if the input l.check property is true, then we want to change the body element. We haven't selected the body in our JavaScript yet. Because the body is just a tag that we can select with query selector as well, we'll just log the body element in the console. So we add a document.querySelector call to grab the body. And inside the parentheses, we just write body. All right, now that we have the body, we change the background color of the body by using the style property and writing bodyelement.style.background. We set it so that if it's checked, we want the background to be black. And if it's not checked, we want bodyelement.style.background to be white. All right, so now the checked value is false. But if we change this input in the code, we can set input.checked true. Then when we call this function by writing updateBody, you can see the background color of our body becomes black. And if we change this true back to false, we get the white background color again. We can also add an event listener for the change event on this toggle switch. So when we toggle it on or off, we update the body based on the checked status. So here we'll work with this toggle. The toggle is this input element. We already retrieved this input, so we add an event listener to the input by writing inputElement.addEventListener. The event we want to listen for is input, and we're going to trigger a function when the input changes from false to true or from true to false. The only thing we need to do in that function is update the body. So we just call this function here. So when we turn it on, you can see that we switch to dark mode. And when we turn it off, we go back to day mode or light mode. All right, so next let's add a transition to the body so this change looks a bit smoother and more beautiful. So we'll just say transition 0.4 seconds. Now when we turn it on, we can see a smooth transition in the color. The next thing I'd like to do is add this turn on and turn off mode to local storage and save it as either true or false. That way, when someone comes back to our website for the second time, based on their previous setting, they'll see our website in the same mode. So to do that, we just need to update our code and make a function. We'll call it update LocalStorage. To save it, we'll use the LocalStorage.setItem method. And the item we want to save we'll just call mode. And we need to save this input.checked value as a string. That's because in local storage, you can't save Boolean values like true or false directly. So we'll just use the JSON.stringify method. If something looks off at this point, don't worry, we'll fix it step by step. We're turning it into a string using the JSON all caps stringify method. And what we want to stringify is this input, specifically input element.checked. So here we write input element.checked. Now, if we open the browser's developer tools, go to the application tab, and then to local storage and choose our website, we'll see that when we click on this toggle, we also need to call this function. So inside the add event listener, after updating the body, we also need to update local storage. Now, when we click on this button, we can see that we have a key here called mode, and its value is true. When we turn it off, it becomes false. So when we set it to true and refresh the page, this value stays true. But to actually apply it when the page loads, we have to call this at the top. Instead of just saying input element.checked false, we need to read the value from LocalStorage. So we'll use LocalStorage.getItem instead of setItem. And the item we want to get is mode. All right, cool, but right now this value is a string, and we want to convert it back to a Boolean. So we need to use json.parse to get the value back, because earlier we used json.stringify to turn it into a string. Now we use parse to bring the Boolean back, and as you can see, the mode is, we can turn it on to true, and when someone comes to our website again and refreshes the page, they still see our website in dark mode. As you can see, the logic works. So now let's style this button in a nicer way. So instead of using the salmon color, let's use white in dark mode. And let's also change the circle. Set the circle's background color to black when we're in dark mode. So now we have a nicer looking button in both dark mode and light mode. That's it for our dark mode toggle project. I hope you enjoyed it and learned a lot. See you in the next project.